Okay, ready?
You're live.
Okay, we'll call the July planning and zoning meeting to order. The meeting properly noticed.
Yes, it was.
Okay, please stand for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call. Let the record show that 6 members are present and 1 via Zoom, so all present. Need a motion to approve the agenda. Jody, second. And Bruce, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, we have an agenda. Need a motion to approve the June 1st meeting minutes. So moved. Bruce? Jay? Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Surveyors report.
Not a lot out of the ordinary this month. The only thing a little different is actually after a little injury, I was back in the field this last month. I did do some investigation on section corners and tie sheets for between Edgewood Avenue and County F. The building pavings. I'm going to be replacing those when they're done. Probably later on this summer or early fall for the highway department. So other than that, it's been business as usual.
Okay, does anybody have any questions for the surveyor? Okay, we'll move on. Treasurer's office address errors.
So there were quite a few errors. The town of Richfield actually brought to our attention the ones on State Road 21, that they were out of the numbering order for part of them. So they had asked that we get those corrected and we bring them forward. And then the other ones were just other errors that we have found when addressing other properties. So we were just asking if they could be approved so that we could get these corrected to match the grid system.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the address error changes. Jody,
Second.
Randy Thiessen. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. You're approved. Road name change request.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen. Maybe. Or lets me. Okay. This was brought forth by the town of Preston. There has been a concern, I'll zoom out here. Where my mouse is, that's Highway 13. It's about a mile north of town, not quite. As I zoom in, you'll see a subdivision with some loops in it. Specifically, the road we are looking at right here in the middle, check court coming east-west, making the cul-de-sac. And then you have south check court coming off of that to the south and then turning back to the west. I'll turn on the parcel mapping or the parcels. The issue is the house that was. What address is on? There's an 1185 check court. And there's an 1185 south check court. This property, which is the 1185 house, was just completed pretty recently, I believe.
South check road was just completed, yes.
Yeah, south check court. So The issue is that it's causing a lot of mail mishaps, also with UPS, FedEx. So the request, what we're putting forth by the request of the town, and we did notify all 3 property owners that this meeting was happening today. They may be, I don't think I see anybody online, but they may want to share permits, weigh in on that. They are permanent residences, so they would have to be changing driver's licenses, checkbooks, everything like that. And the proposal would be to change just the north-south portion to, best we can come up with is 11th lane. Not directly across from 11th lane, but if you look, there's already a west 11th lane just to the northwest of it. So it's not perfect, but it should fix the concern. The chairman of Town of Preston is chairman, right? Yeah. Chairman of Town of Preston is here, and he is the one that put forth the request. I don't know if you want to allow him to add to.
Yes, by all means.
Thanks, and I'll stand up so you can all see. First off, thank you for letting me speak today.
Can you turn your microphone on?
And is that better?
Yep.
Better? Okay. The problem here is, like I said, like Dusty said, Carol and John Howell live at 1185. Jack Cord lived there for quite a long time. They started not getting their mail and having poor deliveries to the other address. And I don't care if you change the road name or change the numbering system so that they're not duplicate numbers. I'll let you address how best to handle that, but it has been a problem that I've been receiving complaints for the last 3 months. Of course, they think the township gets the number of roads, but we haven't been able to do that for years. And so we're just looking for a little relief for them, to correct the situation that's been being. Certainly open to any questions or concerns, and really that's how I have to say, I think Dusty did a great job of presenting our concerns.
And to address, he made the comment about changing the numbering on that south check court. If you look at the screen, I know the property addresses are tiny, but the top one here is 1183. The next one is the one that where the concern is 1185. There's a vacant parcel here that doesn't have a number currently at it. But the next one's 1189. So the vacant one, oops. That's 1189. So the vacant one would be 1187. So there are no empty numbers or usable numbers. Let's go that route.
It would be hard to renumber it correctly.
Jody?
The frontage road north of that is also 11th lane.
Yep.
There's no number problems there, right? Because, if I'm correct, it's so many, whatever from the line and over from each side. Okay, so there's no duplication there. See the 11th lane above?
Yep, so the first number there is 18, it goes 1811, 1813, and then as you go down, by the time you get to their driveway, it's up to 1183. Sorry. The 1183 and the 1185, the 1185 being the one in question, are based off of an east-west numbering system. Whereas 11th lane is a north-south road, north-south numbering system. So when their numbers change, or if this were to be approved on the road, their numbers will change also,
Okay,
and it would continue down from the 1813.
so then Dustin, when it swings east-west, we're gonna go back to east-west and that's also gonna be 11th lane or that's gonna be south check court?
The proposal is still south check court. But
Okay.
And when that property gets developed, when they make an 1187, I think it is, that's not conflict with anybody.
no, and I mean, the way our numbering system works, I mean, you're always gonna have duplicate numbers. Situation here is that they're 200-300 yards apart from each other. And it's check court, self-check court.
Yeah.
And that S is really important. That gets missed a lot.
But there's no other 1187 check court first. No, that'd be self check court.
There is an 1187
Check court,
check court also, yeah, so that can
But,
also be.
but not self check.
not yet. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And there's no perfect way to
Mhm.
solve it. Right now, there is no 1187. I mean,
So is that vacant lot that's next to the one, would that be on South Check Court or would that be on 11th Lane? I'm looking at the curvature. I suppose it depends on where they're putting a driveway if they ever develop it, right?
I'm gonna leave that to the experts in the back row. You wanna come up and see the screen or?
I'll look at Amy's.
Yeah.
This one. Which driveway is?
So with it being on the south side after the curve, it would be on South Check Court most likely. Unless the township okays them for it to have it right on the curve. If it was right on the curve, we could probably do, if it were to get changed to 11th Lane. But if it's on the straight part, it would have to be South Check Court.
And it's owned by the same person as the next door.
Okay, what do we have to do with this now?
Motion.
Or you want us to approve?
But that's the idea, yeah.
Okay,
I mean, that's the fun part.
Just throwing it out there for us. or-
Yeah. No, I think it's been an issue for a while, and I think it's time if the committee so chooses to address it.
And I assume the Hovels are good with it doing some,
They're the ones that would like the name change.
The Hovels are the,
They're not affected.
changing their address.
right, they're not actually changing,
they're not changing all that.
right? It would be Countryman,
Okay, I was wrong house, right, okay.
Colmer, and Carl Rogers. And like I said, Tina, when did you send those letters out?
The 27th of June.
So you're at about 4 or 11 days since we sent that out to them. I don't
see anybody online,
know.
and I don't see anybody here.
And can you even get any information back from anyone?
No, I never heard from anybody on it.
Anybody else have any questions? Well, I need a motion to make this change.
I'll make the motion to make the change, name the street.
Make a motion and a second to make the change to the street. You have all the information of what change we want.
Yes. Yes.
Motion and second to make the name change. Any further discussion?
And the numbering system will follow the north-south?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Register of Deeds, office activities.
Don't have a lot of new things, things are going along well. It's kind of interesting to see when you have a property that comes in that's assessed at $400,000, sell for 1.3 million, so it's, I don't know, hopefully there was lots of improvements on that home, before it was reassessed again, so, that's what we're seeing. We're not seeing the drastic changes that we saw in 2005. I talked to a couple of realtors on this in regards to what's going on, and they said, well, like Madison Market, for example, instead of getting 11 bids above asking price, they're seeing 5 bids, and instead of $100,000 above asking price, they're going down to like $50,000 above asking price. So it's a good time to sell property, but it's also not easy to go buy property. So it's kind of interesting. I've seen this market before. Hopefully it won't get out of hand, because I'm concerned about that, and I'm sure you all are too, because we know what happened last time, so we don't want that to happen again to our banking system. I do see some weird banks coming in again. Of course, they're weird to me, but they're not necessarily weird to the national mortgage industry. And so we're also paying close attention to a possible legislation in regards to document shielding, and that pertains to Daniel's Law. You guys remember that, a judge in, I think, New Jersey, son went and answered the door when somebody knocked. It was a gentleman dressed as a FedEx person. It was actually an attorney that was mad and shot the person's son, and husband too as well. And of course, what happened over with Judge Raymer over in Juneau County, all that affects what happens to records. We all know, you can find almost anything about anybody online. They generally don't get it from the county offices. But for some weird reason, this is a fielded legislation where it makes everybody feel comfortable. I can't say it does what it's intended. But Wisconsin's, our registries group, along with several other groups, are working to try to get ahead of the game before our legislation gets passed like it did in Ohio, where it makes the registries liable if that information gets out. You would decide, as a registry, you would be the one to decide what records get shielded or not. And then Florida has 154 classifications of people that can have their records shielded. So pretty much you're putting a kibosh on public records. So we want to be ahead of the game, and we provide the legislation that some of the wording in there is that the individual would make the request to the court first, and to indicate what records they need shielded. They would have to determine and tell us exactly the document number of the record. And then the court decides if that is true and correct, and then the court order changes that. We'll see where this goes. I guess personally, if I was in that position, I probably wouldn't own property in my own name. Because why would you want to, if you want to have people find you? And we had an example of because they can find you other ways. One of our software vendors had his phone number from Minneapolis, moved years and years ago. He put that phone number in, it tracked him from where he left that phone number down to where he's at now. He doesn't have the same phone number. So, but it's just interesting. Like I said, it's not coming from county government. This is data mining companies and things like that. So anyway, so we're just really keeping track of that. We have a user group meeting this fall. I'm hosting it at Chula Vista, and we're gonna be talking about this much more because my software company is ready for us. If that should happen, that we have to do record shielding, they'll have that in place so that we're able to do that. We already redact social security numbers. That's been done a long time. Basically, the record stays the same, but when they go online, they're redacted. We have had new plats in the Sedge Village came in, a lot of development going on up in Rome, as you all know. It should be interesting to see how the year goes with that. Electronic recording, I always try to keep track of where we're at with that, because that's no paper in, no paper out. Last year at this time, we were 61% of our documents. This year, we're up to 64%, which is good. It is a secure method, and you can also track changes. If people made changes, what happened to them and who did them, which is a great historical record. So if you have issues, it's nice to know what happened, because sometimes we get documents in and on paper, somebody can stand at the counter and make a change to that document before it gets to us. I don't have anything that shows that that person made that, except that what we got is what was recorded. That's it for registered deeds.
Go ahead.
Okay, for land information, this is my last report as land information officer. That will be turning over hopefully to our GIS specialist, Sam Bortz. Sam works under Dusty's jurisdiction, and I know he'll do a great job. I've done it long enough. And so I'm assuming that will be on admin and finance next week. At least because it should go for county board, because it does have to be approved by, no, it doesn't have to be approved by Governor Dusty.
It's a done deal.
Okay, awesome, because I haven't heard anything, so I had no idea.
That's why.
Um,
Sorry.
So, because they would have to notify the state to make sure that they have all that information. So we'll talk to you afterwards about this, so, because we want to make sure that happens, and Sam will do a great job, so looking forward to that, because we just worked on the boundary annexation survey due, which Adams County hasn't had any annexations or any boundary changes, so that's good. And then I sat down with Dusty yesterday to kind of over the budget a little bit, and I certainly can go over that with you too, if you need to do that. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Jody? Okay, we'll move on to public hearings. Dusty, first one, only one.
Lauren got off easy this time, so she only did have the one. Shamans from this whole thing?
No,
All right, the first application is for Yasik Minarski. This is a rezone request of a parcel, 8.946 acres from R1 single family residential to A3 secondary agriculture. On property located in the northwest quarter, section 28, township 16 north, range 6 east, parcel number 10-736-25, town of Easton. The address is 1099 Amber Ave. The town of Easton did approve this, or does not object. They already met their comprehensive plan, and that was on their June 20th meeting. We did receive one call from Gloria Condon, who is a neighbor, and she was emphatically for it. And the primary purpose here, let's go back to share my screen. So just zooming out, the brown blob in the middle is the Easton Pond. So this is located just to the north of that. And the parcel is this yellow L-shaped one here. The peach around it is all zoned A115 currently, so it is, and you can see it is farm field or ag production. To the south, on the south side of Ember Drive is a subdivision, but on north side, I don't believe there's a house in the immediate. Yeah, here's one down here. So this is the property in question. It is basically wooded. The gentleman, his plan is to raise, to have beehives and to, he did also mention pheasants, kind of some not typical farm animals, but, and Mr. Minarski is on the call if there's anything you'd like to add, Yasik?
Well, yeah, we are here. We have nothing to add, but hopefully it gets approved by you guys.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
Does the committee have any questions? Okay, is there anyone that wishes to speak in favor of this proposal? Is there anyone that wishes to speak against this proposal? Hearing none, it's up to the committee.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Randy and Bruce, motion and second to approve. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Gilner,
Yes.
Shaky,
Yes.
Turco,
Yes.
Verbilio,
Yes.
Nozel, Easton,
Yes,
Knockreiner.
Tell John to raise his hand if he approves. Okay, 7 yes. This will have to go before the full county board on, what's the date of that? July.
Following Tuesday, from normal. I believe. I think they moved it, 26, 6 p.m.
Okay, July 26th, 6 p.m. And that's the end of the public hearings. Everybody had a chance to look at the financial reports. Are there any questions?
We're off and running again this year. The report is through the end of May. Everything's always delayed a month here. But key numbers, that bottom one. So currently I guess the best way to explain it, we've used about $16,000 worth of levy, and the budgeted amount was $140,000 for the year. So we are definitely running ahead of schedule.
Okay, permit report.
That kind of backs up what I just was talking about.
All right.
And
Put these all on the same.
I know. I guess we probably could. You can see though, just for May, we were ahead about 30 some permits there. Year to date, we're ahead 60 permits. And there is the breakdown throughout there. The transfer containers, we are at about 320 some odd transfer containers. And they keep coming in daily. A lot out of Rome, which they were doing that anyway, but a number all over. Zoning permits, you can see we are behind. But sanitary, we are, and unfortunately, I didn't have it broke down last year at this time because we didn't have the ordinance in place. And then at the bottom, you can see we are about $20,000, 19,000 ahead in revenue. I don't see an end in sight.
Planning and zoning division updates.
All right, so we did make a job offer to a person. They declined, so we are back to the drawing board on that. That's for the half-time position. Other division updates. We have staff is now doing their same thing I did last year for more towns with the campers. Locating general violations, but they're focusing on about 4 towns right now. Identifying those campers, getting them rolled into the program for the transfer containers or septic systems. And as you know, we sent out a lot of letters, we got a lot of response, and people understand the need for it. That you have, that you need something like that because they also know what their neighbors are doing. Maybe they're happy, but I mean, maybe they're doing what they need to be doing, but they know their neighbor's not, so.
Right. I see a lot of people and I have not heard a single complaint about this program.
The hardest, or not the hardest, and the biggest challenge of the whole thing right now is, pretty much like everything else in life right now, locating the tanks.
Right.
At times they are struggling. It has to be a state approved product, and there was only 2, and one got approved middle of last year. So most of the camper stores carry them. I know some plumbers stockpile them. You can contact them. So I mean, they are out there, but there's no great website to show you how to get them. Tourist rowing houses, those are coming in about as fast as transfer containers. I think we're approximately 175 right now, and that doesn't count the town of Rome, Lincoln, or any of the incorporated areas. So those are, and to date, I have 1 complaint. I mean, I've received 1 complaint. And that was a trespassing issue. It was unverified, so it really didn't, it wasn't a mark against the property owner.
Okay.
That's all I got for update.
Public participation, I don't see anybody logged on or in the room.
Could I ask Dustin one quick
You can
question?
ask.
Thank you. Septic citations. We had a dilly at the time finding a pumper. Is that ongoing or?
Yes, and it has been for ever. So
Some
with,
leeway giving going on or?
yes and no. So the deadline was June 30th. Today I was putting together the list for the next round. They'll go out hoping Friday, but otherwise it'll be very beginning next week. First notices, and then if you received your first notice in the first week of April of this year with the due deadline of June 30th, you're going to receive another notice for September 30th.
Even if you had a pump?
Well, no,
Okay, good.
if you haven't had it,
Okay, all right, so you're saying.
you're gonna get it
Okay.
September 30th. By now, a good chunk of the people that got that first notice are on somebody's list, and it's gonna fall within that 3 months.
Gotcha. Okay.
Now, if that first, you got your notice or your second notice in April, which means you got your first notice last July, you're gonna get a third notice next week, 10 days. But at that point, you've had a year and 14 days to comply.
Sure.
Then after the third notice is when we do the citation. And we did do a round of citations back in April. 100, something like that. By the time it actually got to court, I think it was down to 48. Also implied no contest. Some of them are gonna get another citation this time around. Others, for various reasons, were dismissed. They ended up in compliance, whatever, I mean, number of reasons. But yeah, so if you guys are getting calls or whatever, those know that'll happen in the next week or so.
Okay, any correspondence?
No,
Next meeting date, August 3rd, 3 p.m. Sign the ordinances. Think that we forgot last month.
I blame her.
Okay, meeting adjourned.